for the sake of those who may be watching this, I'd like to give a little bit of a super quick little crash course again. I know we get new people that watch every day. So what we're doing here is we're not just reading, quote unquote, the Bible. We're not just doing that. We're not just having a Bible study. We are digging deep into the history of the transmission of the manuscripts. So when you do this kind of thing, you see that there are variations, they call it, throughout the different manuscripts. We have the newer manuscripts and the older manuscripts. Now, I always used to have the idea, and I still do, that the older the better in a way. I mean, you want to go upstream, right? You want to go where the source of the pure, clear, crystal clear water is. You know, you don't want to be downstream in the river where all the, picks up all the pollution along the way. And trust me, it does, especially both in literally when it comes to rivers, but also figuratively speaking as well, metaphorically speaking, when it comes to the manuscript transmission. So the older manuscripts are more likely to be more accurate, I should say, but not always, because it's complicated, okay? It's complicated. Manuscripts are basically just the handwritten scriptures that have been copied throughout the ages. So you have the original guy that would write it, then you would have one guy that would come around after the fact to try to preserve the text, and he would copy the original. And then you'd have the next scribe that would come. Scribes are those who actually write, actually. That's why they call them scribes. So he would take the copy and copy that. And then you have someone else that would come and he would take the copy of the copy of the copy and copy that. And maybe you might have like 3 scribes that would get a copy of that copy, and they would each make their own copies. And each one of these scribes might have an average of maybe 2 other scribes that would copy the copies of the copies of the copies. And so it would branch out into, it's almost like a tree of manuscript transmission. So what happens is humans are humans, they make mistakes, and sometimes they change the text. Yes, they do. I think we have some evidence that they do. And the thing is not every book is created equal. Back in the ancient days, the books of Moses were considered to be a lot more precious and a lot more authoritative than, let's say, the book of Ezekiel. And the book of Ezekiel would be a lot more important than, let's say, the book of First Chronicles or something. The book of Ecclesiastes, especially. So there's 3 different categories of books. There's the Torah, which typically speaks about, the Torah is typically the books of Moses, but not always. Sometimes you can call all of the scripture Torah. We know that because of even the Gospel of John. Jesus quoted the Psalms and he called it Torah. He called it law. Okay, and not only that, but in the Jewish culture, even to this very day, the word Torah is used for it's kind of like an umbrella term that it can cover anything, both written and oral transmission as well, traditions, all kinds of stuff. But anyways, we got the Torah, which would typically mean the books of Moses. We got the Nevi'im, which that means the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, and all these, the major, the minor prophets, all those prophets. Then we have what we call the Ketuvim. The Ketuvim are the what do you call it? It's just simply the writings. It's like the books of poetry, the books of wisdom, the books of history. Those are the book of Job, the books of First and Second Chronicles, First and Second Kings, Ecclesiastes, even the book of Psalms, for example, is all classified as Ketuvim. So it's not Torah and it's not prophets, but it's writings, as they would call it, Ketuvim. The books that are included in the Ketuvim are more likely to have variations because they're not viewed as super authoritative. Like, It's almost like just a history book. Remember, the Bible did not exist in biblical days. In Bible days, the Bible didn't exist. They didn't have a Bible when Jesus walked this earth. They didn't have a Bible when Moses walked this earth. There wasn't like a Holy Bible, King James Version, or anything like that. But they had different books. It was a library, and so different books would be looked at in different ways. There would be different. Each book would have its own value. Okay? So the book of Ezekiel, we spoke about this past couple nights, because it's in the Nevi'im, the prophets, it's not in the Torah. There was a time in history where it was fluid, in the sense of when scribes copied it, and they copied the copies and copied the copies of the copies of the copies, and all the way down the line for thousands of years, they were a little bit loose sometimes in the way that they transmitted the text. They would add words, take words out, or change things, or do what they would call the cultural interpretation, as we spoke of there last night. And they would change things as they saw fit. So lo and behold, right now we have we're going to be talking about 4 different branches of Bible manuscripts tonight. The oldest one is the Septuagint. That dates back to before Christ, to the BC era. Okay, the Septuagint started in around the 3rd century BC. Going up from there, we have the Peshitta. Okay, the early centuries. From the Peshitta, which is an Aramaic translation of another Hebrew manuscript. From the Peshitta, we have, up from there is the, got to think now, the Latin, the 4th, 5th centuries with Jerome, quote unquote, Saint Jerome translated the scriptures. He had a few manuscripts available, and he did some picking and choosing as to which manuscripts he would use for whatever he translated his own Bible basically into Latin. That's called the Latin Vulgate. And then the newest manuscript that we have, shocker, is the Hebrew, the Masoretic Text, the so-called original Hebrew. That's the newest manuscript. That's not the oldest, quote-unquote, original, although most people call it original. I used to call it original all the time. And even every once in a while, I still kind of slip of the tongue and I call it original, because I'm so used to calling it the original Hebrew. But that's what we have. So we have 4 different manuscripts. The Septuagint was translated in Alexandria, Egypt. We have the Syriac translated in, around Syria and such like that. The Vulgate translated by St. Jerome into Latin, and then the Masoretic Text translated by the Masoretes. And that wasn't finalized until like the 9th or 10th centuries. Okay, it took a little while for it to get fully developed into what we have today, but 9th or 10th centuries. It's not that old, just a little bit over 1,000 years old. Yeah. So I'm going to be reading from the Masoretic Text, the WEB translation of it. And I'm not reading the WEB translation because I believe it is the most accurate, because I don't believe that it's the most accurate, really. I'm not reading from it because it's my favorite text. The WEB translation is copyright free, so it makes it a lot easier for us on our end here. And it's from the Masoretic Text, which is the most popular Bible manuscript in the English-speaking world today. If you have an English Bible, 9 times out of 10, or more, it's going to be a translation from the Masoretic Text, the Old Testament, that is, from the Masoretic Text. The New Testament is another whole topic all by itself. All right, before we get into it, Kubert says shalom, shalom, Kuberts. Welcome and blessings multiplied to you and yours. Hope you're having an awesome, awesome, awesome day. All right, so let's begin this. We have a chart that we're going to refer to. And Lord willing, I will be posting this chart, especially for the members of the channel, to download for free. And this chart goes through all of the, well, I shouldn't say